Interval notation is a common way to express inequality solutions. Let's start with a basic inequality like x is greater than 4. First, we may want to take a look at this inequality on a number line. X is greater than 4 means solutions can be any number more than 4, but not 4 itself. Remember, this does not mean that the smallest solution is 5, as that would be excluding all of the numbers between 4 and 5 that are solutions. On a number line, we express this by putting an open circle around 4 and pointing the arrow to the right, showing that every number greater than 4 but not 4 itself is a solution. To express this in interval notation, we'll be looking to write a left and a right boundary for our interval. When we look at the number line, the leftmost place we drew anything is 4, so we will write our left number as 4. We know this number is not included in the set, so we indicate this by placing a parentheses around 4. Interval notation will always contain either parentheses or a square bracket around a number. The parentheses indicates that this number is not included, much like the open circle on the number line. Since there is no ending point to the right, we will use infinity, and we separate these two with a comma. Since infinity is not a number that can be included, we will also use parentheses around it. And this is the interval x is greater than 4 in interval notation. If we look at a similar interval but call it x is greater than or equal to 4, we'll have almost the same interval notation with a slight difference. On a number line, we express the fact that this is greater than or equal to 4 by filling in the circle, and the arrow is still pointing in the same direction. So our two boundaries are the same. It's still 4 and infinity. Infinity, no matter what, will always have parentheses around it. In this case, since the 4 is included, we'll put a square bracket around it. Infinity will always get the parentheses. Numbers included in the set when it's greater than or equal to will always get brackets, and the two symbols on either side of the interval do not have to match. If we look at something like x is less than 4, we're going to have some similarities here. On a number line, we will see that 4 is not included in the set, so we still put an open circle around this, but we point the arrow to the left. So if we follow the same steps for interval notation, we look at the leftmost point that we put anything. And in this case, it's infinite going to the left. We display that by writing negative infinity to indicate that it's infinite, but it's going in the negative direction. And just like positive infinity, negative infinity will always have parentheses around it. To the right, our number line ends at 4. And we can see in this case that 4 is not included, so we are going to put parentheses around it. And this is our interval notation for x is less than 4. And similarly, if we had x is less than or equal to 4, we know the number line would look almost the same, but we would fill the circle in at 4, still point the arrow to the left. So we're again going to have the same numbers in our interval notation, negative infinity to the left, which always gets parentheses, but in this case, we'll have a square bracket around the 4. Often when we're solving compound inequalities or in places like stating a domain for a function, we will get an interval that is not infinite on either side. So let's take a look at what that looks like. For example, let's suppose we solve a compound inequality and we get an interval something like this. -2 is less than x, less than or equal to 5. On a number line, we can see that this is not infinite in either direction. There's an open circle around the 2 and a closed circle around the 5, and the solution is everything in between. So if we follow the same steps for interval notation, we look at our leftmost point, which is -2. Since -2 on our number line has an open circle, and since there's a less than, not a less than or equal to attached to it, we put a parentheses around it. Our rightmost point on the interval is 5. Since it's less than or equal to and has a closed circle, we do a square bracket. Remember, when setting up interval notation, you're always going to look for a left and a rightmost point. The number line here can be very helpful. Parentheses are always used when the number is not included, like a less than or greater than with no equal to, or with infinity or negative infinity. A square bracket is used when equal to is present, and the two symbols on the left and right do not have to be the same.